In front of a mirror, Mizuki cuts her long hair, snipping it away into a short auburn bob, while her friend Julia sits on her bed, asking if she's going to be okay. Julia admits that she is surprised by the news of Mizuki leaving. Julia tells her how worried she is over Mizuki's decision because they have always lived together in America. Mizuki tells her that it was difficult convincing her parents that this is the best decision for her. Despite her initial concern over Mizuki's decision, Julia cheers Mizuki on, saying the guy Mizuki likes, whom Mizuki considers her star, is one lucky person to be receiving this level of dedication, especially since Mizuki is transferring to the same school just to meet him. However, when Julia comments on how she finds it odd that Mizuki is cutting her hair short, Mizuki only flashes a suspicious and nervous smile. Starting her first day of school at Osaka Private High School for Boys, Mizuki dashes through the streets since she is already running late for her first class. Turning a corner in the school corridor, she unexpectedly bumps into Izumi and drops her bag in the process. Izumi helps her, but notices that Mizuki looks like a girl. Thinking that her cover is blown right away, Mizuki leaves hastily, forgetting her school bag in the process. Mizuki opens the door to Class 1C and immediately begins apologizing for her tardiness, explaining that her flight was delayed. The teacher dismisses her worries and turns to the class to introduce Mizuki. He tells them that Mizuki is a transfer student from America, which immediately captures the attention of the class since they did not expect Mizuki to come from a foreign land. Izumi then lightly places Mizuki's forgotten bag on top of her head. Mizuki turns to see him, instantly recognizing him as Izumi, the very reason she transferred schools. She's been a fan of Izumi for his jumps. Izumi takes his seat in class as many tease him over his tardiness. Mizuki stares after him, a warmth creeping up her chest since Izumi is right in front of her. During a free period, Mizuki looks around, taking note that she really is in an all-boys school. She worries about her situation for a bit, but is ultimately happy because she is classmates with Izumi. In her head, she thanks God and her luck for being blessed with her current situation. Wasting no time, Mizuki approaches Izumi, saying she likes him and asking if they can be friends. The class, hearing this, erupts into another state of chaos. Mizuki wonders if she said anything weird to cause such an uproar. Izumi stands up to leave, saying he's not into that, since he took Mizuki's statement as a confession. Without hearing the rest of her statement, Izumi proceeds to leave the classroom. Mizuki begins to panic in her head. She did not expect her first day to turn out this bad. Still, she manages to convince herself that it isn't the end of the world and that she can still turn this situation around since she came all the way from America to befriend Izumi. She begins laughing to herself, causing others to find her strange. Finding her a funny guy, Shuichi approaches her and compliments her guts for confessing on her first day. Mizuki clears up her intention, but now worries that Izumi might hate her. Shuichi dismisses her fears, saying that Izumi is simply sulking today. Shuichi introduces himself as a first year and a forward on the soccer team. He speaks in slang, which Mizuki finds hard to understand. When she tries to greet him in a similar manner, Shuichi smacks Mizuki's back for being overly awkward. After class, a teacher rushes into their classroom and asks if anyone can show Mizuki around. Shuichi is the one who ends up showing her the campus, mentioning that it isn't a burden because they both belong to the sports dorm. He shares that he got into the school through a sports scholarship, and Mizuki shares that she does a little track but did not get in through a scholarship. Since Mizuki lived abroad, Shuichi inadvertently asks Mizuki about her body count. Mizuki, with her vague response, hints that she hasn't done the deed yet. Shuichi then talks about men's private parts, which earns him a kick on the head from Hokuto, the school doctor. After some banter between the two, Hokuto notices that Mizuki is a new face. When he learns that she is the transfer student from America, he regards her curiously before introducing himself and telling her to see him in the clinic if she needs anything. Arriving at their dorm, Mizuki learns that she is sharing a room with Izumi. Shuichi explains that Izumi's foul mood is because Izumi now has to share a room with Mizuki when he used to have it all to himself. Mizuki admits that she thought they would have single rooms, while Shuichi admits that he also expected the same thing when he first arrived at the school. Taiki, Shuichi's roommate, says that Mizuki will eventually get used to her living situation. His sudden presence shocks them since they did not notice him. Taiki's gaze lingers on Mizuki before leaving. Continuing the tour, Shuichi tells Mizuki to come to him for anything. While going down the corridor, a dog named Yujiro jumps on Mizuki. Mizuki is shocked at how friendly Yujiro is, but doesn't resist his affection. When the owner finally calms Yujiro down and takes his leave, Shuichi mentions that Yujiro is only friendly with girls. Mizuki panics for a bit, especially when Shuichi tells her that he would believe her if she suddenly turned out to be a girl due to how feminine her face is. He playfully pats her bound chest, saying that Yujiro must have just been mistaken since he's only a dog, and jokes about how Mizuki suddenly having boobs would be funny. As Shuichi leaves, Mizuki feels a mix of relief and disappointment over Shuichi's comment about her chest. Arriving at her room, she finds Izumi already there. Mizuki restarts her introduction, saying that she truly wants to be his friend. She shares that she has looked up to him as a high jumper for so long. Izumi realizes that's how Mizuki learned his name. Mizuki wonders out loud why he was enrolled as a regular student when he is an athlete. Maintaining his neutral expression, Izumi reveals that he quit the sport. Mizuki grabs him by his shirt in shock, asking him for an explanation. But Izumi simply tells her to let him go since he doesn't owe anyone an answer. Realizing she is invading his space, Mizuki releases her hold, allowing Izumi to exit their room. Mizuki finishes stowing away her belongings and realizes it's been a while since Izumi left. She decides to look for him, but opens the door to see Minami about to knock. He introduces himself and explains that he is here to explain the dorm rules. He then leans in and admits that he finds Mizuki adorable. Minami motions for her to follow him. While listening to Minami explain the rules, Mizuki bumps into Senri, who swears he will not let Mizuki take the school title of school idol from him. Mizuki is confused until Minami points out posters of them and students voting on who the school idol is. Much to her horror, Mizuki spots Wataru selling photos of her. Minami warns him to refrain from taking pictures because it violates people's privacy. Sensing her unease, Minami reassures her that the boys don't mean any harm. Shuichi sees Mizuki and invites her to dinner. As Minami leaves, Shuichi warns Mizuki about him, saying that she could easily get pregnant talking to him. Minami overhears this and murmurs to himself that he isn't into guys. As they head for dinner, Mizuki sees Izumi outside and tells Shuichi that he can go on without her. She goes to Izumi and notices that he is dozing under a tree. The dog Yujiro brings Mizuki a tennis ball. Humoring the dog, she throws it as she takes a seat beside the sleeping Izumi. She edges closer and pokes his right cheek, whispering that she really did love seeing him do the high jump. Izumi suddenly starts to fall, but Mizuki manages to stop him from falling on his face. Instead, he ends up dozing on her shoulder. She blushes at how close they are, and Yujiro, wanting to be part of the fun, leans on Izumi. Their combined weight makes them fall to the ground. Izumi finally wakes up, surprised to find Mizuki under him. Mizuki explains that Yujiro knocked Izumi over. She then explains that she was worried he was going to catch a cold, so she was going to wake him up, but he was sleeping so peacefully that she felt guilty. So she had intended to just block the wind from him. Izumi finds her explanation funny, so he calls her strange. Mizuki insists Izumi is the one who fell on her. Izumi feels embarrassed and changes the direction of their conversation by telling Mizuki they need to get dinner before there's nothing left. Mizuki stares at him and wonders why he'd have quit his sport. Suddenly, a gust of wind prevents her from voicing her thoughts. During sports class, Mizuki is caught off guard when Shuichi casually puts his arm around her. He pushes her lightly so she can take her position to get herself timed for a sprint. As she runs, she surprises them with how fast she is. Finishing her sprint, she notices Izumi mingling with others and feels like she lost her chance to learn more about him. Shuichi notices that Kyogo seems surprised about something, and he learns from Kyogo that Mizuki had just broken a school record. Word quickly spreads, and Shuichi is approached by Hayato, who asks his aid in recruiting Mizuki for their team. Mizuki finds herself cornered by Hayato, who asks her to join the soccer club. Before she can respond, other sports clubs also approach her, and she ends up dashing out, hoping to get them off her tail. Mizuki's speed amazes everyone as they struggle to catch up to her. She manages to hide outside a building as the clubs run past the window. She spots Izumi sleeping nearby and approaches him cautiously. Mizuki inches her face closer, only to hear voices nearby looking for her. She chooses to hide behind a bush a short distance away from Izumi since she just realized she had tried to kiss him. Izumi wakes up from the noise and sees her, and soon someone asks him if he had seen Mizuki. Izumi decides to tell him that Mizuki went to a different building. When Izumi tries to tell Mizuki that they are gone, Mizuki is no longer in the area. Mizuki sighs as she exits another building, only to see Shuichi, who challenges her to a soccer game. Mizuki is confused as to why she has to have a face-off with Shuichi. Not giving her a chance to deny him, Shuichi says men never back down from a challenge. While walking Yujiro, Izumi finds them in the middle of their match. Both Mizuki and Shuichi are not holding back. At one point, Shuichi unexpectedly elbows Mizuki in the face, making her fall to the ground and lose consciousness. Both Izumi and Shuichi rush to her aid. Izumi tells Shuichi to call the school doctor while he carries Mizuki to the clinic. Shuichi initially insists that he should carry Mizuki until Izumi reasons that Shuichi is faster. As Shuichi runs off, Izumi starts to lift Mizuki. He notices something off about her as he does so. In the infirmary, Shuichi is relieved that Mizuki will be alright as Hokuto complains over his overreaction. Hokuto brushes past Izumi, slightly bumping his side. Izumi stares at the hand where he felt something. Mizuki stirs awake, which excites Shuichi, but Hokuto kicks him before Shuichi can act on his relief. Shuichi is about to argue, but Izumi grabs Shuichi and drags him out of the infirmary. Mizuki quickly tightens her necktie, preparing to go. However, Hokuto stops her and asks how her head is. Mizuki avoids eye contact and tells him that she feels better. However, as she makes a move to stand, Hokuto blocks her and asks what a girl like her is doing in an all-boys school. A gentle chime rang, signaling the height of summer. Mizuki sat next to her grandmother and excitedly shared her vacation plans. Her grandmother gently chided her, reminding her to calm down. Mizuki's attention moved to the television, where Izumi was shown on the screen. She observed Izumi at first, doubting he could make the jump, as her grandmother said that Izumi was an amazing athlete. She was surprised when she watched him effortlessly jump over the pole, which marked the start of her feelings for him. At present, Mizuki gives Hokuto an uneasy look, worried since he had figured out she is a girl. Before the tension can settle, Izumi interrupts by re-entering the room, urging Mizuki to go home. Relieved and thankful, she follows Izumi while thanking Hokuto for the care. Before she leaves, Hokuto tells her that he is looking forward to their next meeting. While walking to the dorms, Mizuki's head spirals in worry over her gender being leaked. She barely notices Izumi calling her and almost wanders on her private property. Flustered, she rejoins him on the path leading back to their dorm. Izumi tells her to ice her head. Remembering the pain makes her wince, and suddenly she wonders how she even reached the infirmary, since someone must have carried her. The thought that it was Izumi makes her blush. She tries to shake off her feelings, but the memory of her attempt to kiss him rushes in. She hides her reddening face and desperately tries to change the subject. Izumi turns around to ask something. He hesitates and lets it go, walking ahead and leaving Mizuki staring after him. Back at the dorm, Shuichi rushes to apologize for hurting Mizuki. Mizuki reassures him it's fine and stares at Izumi, who is walking off. The other dorm members crowd around, curious why Shuichi seems so upset. Mizuki eases their worry by joking that Shuichi is only making a fuss over sweet curry for dinner. Touched, Shuichi calls her a good guy, elevating Mizuki's status as his bestie, and cries openly. Mizuki hands him a tissue and figures that she will accept the title of his best friend. After having dinner, Mizuki enters her dorm, calling on Izumi to go have his dinner. She finds him already in bed. She decides not to bother him, since she has more pressing matters to worry about, specifically how to make sure Hokuto doesn't leak her secret. Unknown to her, Izumi lies awake. He replays the moment he carried Mizuki in his mind. He is pretty sure that Mizuki is a girl, but wonders if he's the only one who is aware of it. The next morning, Izumi leaves before Mizuki. Outside, Shuichi catches Mizuki, and they walk to school together. Shuichi explains that Izumi likely left early for classroom duty, which makes Mizuki wonder if that's the real reason. Near the school gate, a crowd of students gathers by the bulletin board. Mizuki and Shuichi go to check out what the commotion is about, and Mizuki is shocked to see a photo of her and Izumi caught in a compromising position, with an indicated warning that she is a dangerous pretty boy. Izumi rips it down instantly and goes to confront Wataru. Worried, Mizuki decides to follow him and catches him as he is warning Wataru never to post photos of him like that again. When Izumi leaves, Wataru has the gall to talk low about him and Mizuki. Angry, Mizuki punches him in the face. Her hand throbs as she storms off. She bumps into Hokuto near the school stairs, who applauds her courage, casually calls her Mizuki-chan, and checks her hand. She pulls away, insisting she knows self-defense. Hokuto smiles and reminds her that he still awaits her answer. After class, Mizuki watches Izumi closely. When she calls out to walk home together, he leaves without looking back. Her suspicion hardens that he really is avoiding her. She walks back with Shuichi instead. He asks what's wrong, and she admits Izumi won't talk to her. Shuichi suggests it's because of the photo incident, but as he looks at Mizuki, something changes. She suddenly looks soft and delicate. To him, Mizuki looks beautiful and his heart starts pounding erratically. Meanwhile, Mizuki spots Izumi talking to Rika, a girl she's never seen before. Alarmed, she grabs Shuichi's arm and drags him away. Shuichi's heartbeat goes wild, and he wonders what is going on with him. Wanting to satisfy her curiosity, Mizuki walks Yujiro as a front and secretly spies on Izumi and the girl. She hears Rika asking Izumi to jump again. Izumi says he's done with the sport. Rika accuses him of lying, aware that Izumi is very passionate about the sport. She brings up a past accident, blaming herself for his injury. Izumi assures her his leg healed long ago, and quitting was his choice. Yujiro suddenly barks and drags Mizuki out of her hiding spot. Embarrassed, she makes an excuse by blaming Yujiro and runs away from them to give them back their privacy. Sitting alone on a bench, Mizuki wonders if Rika is Izumi's girlfriend. Mizuki had no idea that Izumi had an incident, which makes her realize how little of him she actually knows. She stares at the leaves above her when Izumi's face suddenly appears. Izumi tells her that dinner will be finished if she doesn't leave, so they end up walking home together. Unable to stop herself, Mizuki finally asks about Rika. Izumi explains they only knew each other in middle school. Mizuki wonders if that is all there is to it. As they cross the street, Mizuki comments on the fact that Yujiro hates men except Izumi. Izumi shares that Yujiro likely is okay with him because he was the one who found him. Half a year ago, Izumi saw Yujiro being forcibly dragged to an animal shelter. Before he knew it, he had Yujiro in his arms and was begging the janitor of the dorm to let him keep Yujiro. He explains that Yujiro used to be owned by a woman and her daughter. The woman remarried and her new husband didn't like dogs, so she decided to forfeit Yujiro to an animal shelter. He believes Yujiro doesn't like men because a man was the reason his family abandoned him. Mizuki is stunned by his kindness, then quickly follows him as they continue to walk. She then asks if Izumi has been avoiding her. Izumi stops and mutters to himself that he doesn't know how to treat a girl. Mizuki hears him saying something but doesn't catch the words. When Izumi turns, he sees a vehicle speed toward them. Izumi shoves Mizuki aside, pinning her safely against the wall. Mizuki's heart races and her face burns. Seeing her all well, Izumi steps back as if nothing happened and walks ahead, leading Yujiro home. Mizuki follows, her resolve to stay by his side stronger than ever. As Mizuki watches Izumi in class the next day, she finally makes her decision. She knows how she'll answer Hokuto. After her meeting with Hokuto, Mizuki sees Rika waiting by the school gate. Their eyes meet and Rika rushes to Mizuki. Rika reveals that she is childhood friends with Izumi. Mizuki accidentally blurts out that she thought Rika was Izumi's girlfriend due to how close they seem. Rika laughs at her assumption and says they are good friends and that she was the manager of the middle school track team. She shares that she would have wanted to be his girlfriend. Mizuki realizes that she and Rika are the same since they both love Izumi. Rika pulls Mizuki back to her senses as she asks Mizuki for a favor. In the evening, as Mizuki eats her dinner across from Izumi, she shares that Rika will be waiting for Izumi beside the park tomorrow after school. Izumi is surprised that Mizuki had met Rika on her way home from school. He tells Mizuki to ignore Rika, but Mizuki is persistent and urges him to meet her. Irritated by the knowledge of everyone being worried about him, Izumi abruptly leaves. Shuichi catches Mizuki looking worriedly over Izumi and sits down with her. He asks if Izumi is still ignoring her and tells her not to worry because Izumi is very random at times. Mizuki spots Shuichi's peach juice and asks for a sip. Mizuki leaves after taking a drink and Shuichi is left to look at the open juice bottle. He spirals into thinking if drinking it after her qualifies as an indirect kiss. Before he can drink it, Hyogo grabs the remaining peach juice to drink. Angry that he was robbed of the chance of kissing Mizuki, Shuichi shakes Hyogo aggressively. Shuichi comes back to his senses when he realizes he shouldn't be this upset over the drink. The next day after school, Mizuki wonders if Izumi met with Rika. On her walk, she crosses paths with Izumi walking Yujiro. He was looking at the track field where high jump equipment was set. Izumi's gaze was wistful toward the field. Mizuki realizes that Izumi misses the sport. She comes up to him and strikes a conversation, expressing that the path must be part of Yujiro's walks, which Izumi confirms and shares that he had talked to Rika. Mizuki smiles over this. She realizes that Izumi doesn't hate high jump. As they walk back to the dorm together, they don't notice a girl spying on them. Back in their room, Mizuki wonders what Izumi and Rika talked about. However, she makes up her mind that it doesn't matter. In the shower, Izumi continues to question how Mizuki's secret doesn't make sense. A few moments later, Shuichi knocks on their door, asking for notes from their English 1 class. Shuichi thanks Izumi and asks where Mizuki is. Izumi plainly answers that Mizuki is in the shower, which takes a few seconds to register in Shuichi's head. In the shower, Mizuki recounts her answer to Hokuto. During their meeting, she shared how Izumi is a high jumper that she has long admired and her reason for attending the all-boys school. Izumi inspired her to start track and grew to love it. As she improved at the sport, she was overcome with the desire to meet Izumi. She learned that he had quit high jump, but she hopes that someday they can jump together again. Hokuto counters that Izumi has quit jumping, so there is no point for Mizuki to stay at school. Mizuki refuses to surrender and says meeting Izumi only made her want to get to know him more. She decides she won't drop out even if Hokuto bullies her. After hearing her answer, Hokuto tells her that if Mizuki went the route of seducing him, he would have her expelled on the spot. He allows her to stay since he reasons it is none of his business. Mizuki, realizing that she can stay, wraps her arms around Hokuto, who finds her just as annoying as any other woman. When asked how Hokuto found out about Mizuki being a girl, he says he is a doctor who also happens to be gay. Close to finishing her bath, Mizuki turns off the shower. Outside, Izumi wonders what is wrong with Shuichi before remembering his watch in the bathroom. He opens the door to the bath, discovering that Mizuki has the shower curtain partially open. Regaining his composure, Izumi calmly asks Mizuki to grab his watch by the sink. Mizuki reaches for it and timidly hands it back, careful not to show her front. Getting his watch, he retreats to his bed. He thinks Mizuki is very careless for not closing the shower curtain when she wants to keep her gender a secret. Mizuki exits the bath, clothed in her bedclothes. She thinks she is safe, given that Izumi may have only seen her back. She is about to climb onto the upper bunk, but stops to ask if the watch is okay. Izumi gives her a sure affirmation. Once he is sure Mizuki is on her bed, he looks at the watch and notes that he has to get it repaired tomorrow. Meanwhile, Mizuki continues to think that her secret is safe and is determined not to drop out of school. One evening at the dorms, Shuichi has trouble studying as he keeps getting distracted. When he went to Izumi and Mizuki's dorm, he learned that Mizuki was in the shower. For some reason, he kept thinking about it, even getting to the point that he started to picture how Mizuki would look while showering. He realizes he's oddly attracted to Mizuki, so he tries to convince himself otherwise by declaring he likes women. Despite being noisy, Taiki doesn't seem to mind his outbursts, mentioning that Shuichi's aura is pink. During the day, Izumi, Mizuki, and Shuichi receive a scolding from their teacher since they arrived late together and have obvious bags under their eyes. Once they reach their seats, the teacher continues his lesson, only to be distracted when he spots the three of them sleeping in class. He tells their classmates to inform them that he wants to see them after school. At the end of school, the three enter a classroom to meet with the teacher. Hyogo makes fun of them since they are an unusual sight, and Shuichi shares that he has some troubles. Mizuki tries to ask Shuichi what his problems are. Shuichi blushes, suddenly overwhelmed with how Mizuki looks. Not liking his own reaction, he decides to run away from them. They stare at the door, deciding not to question his actions. After some time, they leave the room to get some food, but Mizuki tells them to go ahead since she wants to buy some bread. After some time, Mizuki emerges from the faculty female restroom. It is her first day of her period and she has trouble with the pain. When she finally leaves the school, Mizuki lets out a heavy sigh, remembering her visit to the clinic. She drinks the medicine Hokuto gave her. Hokuto mentions how defeated she already looks. As she walks out of the school, she acknowledges that Hokuto, knowing she's female, is actually helping her, though she feels conflicted about asking him for more help. She spots Rika again when she approaches the school gate and notices she seems mad about something. Rika thanks Mizuki for passing her message, noting that Izumi seems to listen to Mizuki more than anyone. Mizuki assumes Rika is looking for Izumi again, which Rika denies. She is actually looking for Mizuki and asks her to stay away from Izumi. Rika accuses Mizuki of following him around and preventing him from growing. Mizuki tries to defend herself, but Rika insists Izumi is no longer himself. Mizuki counters that Izumi is worth more than his wins, and that Rika is the one who is clueless about his feelings. Internally, Mizuki is conflicted since she still wants to see Izumi jump. Rika raises her hand to hit Mizuki, but Izumi catches it just in time. He scolds Rika for her actions, saying that he never asked Rika to help him. He explains that the real reason he quit is that he choked under pressure. He reprimands Rika for involving Mizuki and tells her that her act is annoying. This breaks Rika's spirit, and Izumi walks away, dragging Mizuki. After some distance, Mizuki pulls her arm away, scolding Izumi for the way he treated Rika. She expresses that Rika's outburst is only because she cares about Izumi. Izumi tries to retort, but ends up storming off, leaving Mizuki behind. Mizuki returns alone to the dorm, where the receptionist hands her a package from America. Hyogo and Shinji see her package and insist that since they are friends with her, she should share the goods with them. She ends up leading them to her room, but notices Shuichi pacing in front of it. When he finally notices her, he shares that he has souvenirs from his mother and had wanted to share some with her. Mizuki looks over in delight at the sweets, making her look cute in Shuichi's eyes. They open Shuichi's sweets in Mizuki's room, disappointed since it is just normal red bean pancakes. They insist Mizuki should open her package next. Upon opening it, they see imported snacks and Hyogo and Shinji grab what they want. Seeing the items don't endanger her identity, she decides to dig into the package, accidentally letting a photo of Julia fall out. The boys spot the photo, noting how hot the girl is, and Shuichi immediately grabs Mizuki's arm and asks if Julia happens to be her girlfriend. Mizuki laughs and says that it is her best friend. Hyogo interprets Shuichi's actions as being jealous over Mizuki having a girl, which makes Shuichi realize that how he acted was odd. As he tries to make sense of his actions, the other boys spot another wrapped package and a letter from Mizuki's brother. Mizuki decides to open the letter, realizing too late that the wrapped item might be something that would give her away. To her horror, the boys had already unwrapped the item, revealing a dress. Thinking fast, Mizuki insists that the dress is meant as some sort of prank from her brother. Izumi then enters the room and Mizuki quiets down. He casually drops his bag and jacket over his desk and prepares to head out, telling them that he's just going to take Yujiro for a walk. Shuichi notices that Izumi is colder than usual, but the others say that he seemed pretty normal. Mizuki, on the other hand, feels guilty for telling him off earlier. In her top bunk, Mizuki video calls Julia, who is glad that her package has finally arrived. Julia asks if Mizuki has already met Izumi, to which Mizuki confirms half-heartedly. Julia notices that Mizuki doesn't seem too happy, but Mizuki brushes it off, saying her being in Japan has left her in culture shock. Julia accepts her response and tells Mizuki to do her best. Mizuki appreciates Julia's words and thanks her before ending the call. With her spirits lifted, Mizuki reflects on how being depressed isn't like her. The call leaves her determined to renew her attempts at becoming friends with Izumi. She takes a deep breath, pulls her curtains, and cheerily greets him, inviting him to dinner. Izumi refuses and draws the curtain closed on his bottom bunk. Mizuki ends up eating dinner alone, but shocks everyone with how much she is eating. In the following days, she clings to Izumi as much as she can, be it going to the science room, joining him on walks with Yujiro, or being excited about dinner. After class, as Mizuki goes to follow Izumi, Shuichi and his friends talk about how gutsy Mizuki is, but Shuichi tries to block out the conversation, saying he doesn't care. Shinji feels sorry for her, saying Izumi should really just mend things with Mizuki. This catches Shuichi's attention as he shakes Shinji, trying to get the truth from him. After he learns that Mizuki and Izumi had a fight, he rushes out of the classroom in tears, feeling guilty for not being a good best friend to Mizuki. An unassuming Mizuki passes by as Wataru watches her from a corner. He promises himself to make her pay for the injustice he received. Minami accidentally bumps into Wataru and, after apologizing, continues his walk. Wataru decides that he will always make Minami pay, simply because Minami is attractive and they are a. Minami spots Mizuki walking absent-mindedly down the hallway. Crossing his arms, he believes it is a waste that Mizuki is a boy. From behind him, Hokuto asks if Minami is attracted to Mizuki. Minami tells his uncle that he does not swing that way. Hokuto reminds Minami that he should show respect to him at school. Ignoring his statement, Minami remembers that his mother has something to give Hokuto. Stepping back, Hokuto asks what the witch wants, which Minami responds to by chiding him for calling his mother names. He tells Hokuto that he left the item in the dorm and will bring it if he remembers. Hokuto realizes that the item might be something he knows. At her dorm, Mizuki hugs a pillow, slowly losing hope since it's been days since her fight with Izumi. Izumi arrives and she tries to invite him to dinner. Izumi replies that he already ate. She tries again, hoping that he will take the bait and start a conversation, but nothing seems to work. She tries to joke that their fight kind of reminds her of how newlyweds fight. Izumi finally snaps and cages her against the wall, calling her annoying for all her careless jokes. He is also irritated since it seems like Mizuki doesn't understand why he yelled at Rika. Before he can say anything he might regret, he leaves the room and Mizuki slides to the ground, upset because all she wanted to do was lighten the mood. Shuichi is in the dorm halls, feeling bad about how poorly he had treated Mizuki. He wonders if it falls under jealousy and shakes his head in denial. He catches Izumi leaving the room looking pissed off and realizes something must have happened to Mizuki. He hurriedly enters the room and sees Mizuki on the floor. When he checks on her, Mizuki tries to laugh it off and says that she had pissed off Izumi. She begins crying and Shuichi fixes her with a troubled gaze. Shuichi is overcome with the urge to hold Mizuki. Fighting his desire, he settles for patting Mizuki's head, urging her to cry if she feels like it. At the dorm's vending machine, Izumi vents, troubled by his situation with Mizuki and Rika. Back in the room, Mizuki apologizes to Shuichi, and he replies that Mizuki should come talk to him if she feels troubled. Unknown to the pair, Izumi was on his way back to the room, a bottle of peach juice in his hand as a means of apology. However, when he sees Shuichi's shoes by the door, he decides to leave. He hands the drink to Shinji and Kyogo, claiming he does not like sweet drinks. The next day, Shuichi demands to talk privately with Izumi. At the same time, Mizuki has just entered the school grounds, her eyes notably swollen due to crying. Minami catches her and notices she's been crying, so he invites her to chat. Back to Shuichi and Izumi, Shuichi demands to know what had happened between Mizuki and Izumi. Izumi refuses to answer, which only angers Shuichi, who insists that it's his business to know. He decides that he wouldn't mind being gay if it meant Mizuki wouldn't have to cry again. Izumi is about to retaliate against Shuichi's sudden aggression, but he spots Mizuki and Minami together. Worried, he bolts after them, concerned about what Minami might do to her. Arriving where he spotted them, he notices they are no longer there, and Wataru creeps out of the bushes, teasing Izumi that he knows where Mizuki and Minami are. He refuses to tell Izumi, but when Izumi grabs him and demands their location, he relents and tells him that they moved to the student council room. Izumi tosses Wataru over to Shuichi and tells him that Wataru had taken some dodgy shots of Mizuki. This effectively shifts Shuichi's anger to Wataru so that Izumi can go after Mizuki. Izumi bursts open the door to the student council office, only to find Mizuki and Minami having coffee together. Minami announces he needs to leave for homeroom, telling Mizuki she is free to chat with him anytime. As he passes Izumi, he warns him not to bully Mizuki again. Finally alone, Izumi steps fully into the room and decides to tell Mizuki the truth about why he quit high jump. He mentions that there was a big competition back in middle school, and performing well could land him in a good school known for track and field. Unfortunately, right before the competition, he got injured while saving Rika from a truck. He acknowledges that he could have done better if he had actually tried and regrets choking under pressure during the competition. However, he admits that now he feels like he wants to try jumping again. Mizuki is surprised that he is sharing this with her, and he clears up that she deserves to know because she is his fan. Mizuki begins crying tears of joy, causing Izumi to pull her to his chest, telling her to stop crying. He adds that this time he will definitely try his best. They leave the student council room and Mizuki clings to his arm, happy that her efforts weren't put to waste. Meanwhile, Shuichi is still teaching Wataru a lesson. While walking with Yujiro, Mizuki has to stop him from going to see Izumi, telling him that she promised she wouldn't be around to watch Izumi practice. By evening, Izumi finishes his training and returns to the locker room, where he finds a towel, a water bottle, and a short note from Mizuki waiting for him. A little later, he heads back to the dorm and presses a cold bottle of peach juice against Mizuki's forehead as a quiet thank you. Mizuki smiles, happy that Izumi noticed her small gesture. Almost immediately, she starts to worry if what she did was not manly, but reassures herself that since Izumi isn't saying anything about it, it should be fine. Meanwhile, Izumi is also conflicted. He doesn't know how to react to Mizuki's kindness, especially since she doesn't know that he already realizes she's actually a girl. The next morning, Mizuki finishes changing just as Izumi stops by to check on her. He gives her a once-over and notices her messy hair, quickly fixing it for her since she didn't have time to comb it properly while rushing. At lunch, Mizuki orders the cafeteria's fox wheat noodles. Izumi, tempted by how good it looks, decides to order the same thing. Mizuki feels thrilled with how things are progressing. Izumi has become friendlier and he has even rejoined the track team. When they sit down with Shuichi and the others, they realize that almost everyone ordered the same meal. While the group enjoys the noodles and rich broth, Shuichi boldly declares that clear broth is the superior choice for wheat noodles. Izumi and Mizuki admit that they personally prefer Kansai-style broth the most. As the conversation continues, Mizuki notices several students buzzing with excitement about the upcoming baseball game. The boys are shocked that she doesn't know about it, explaining that it's a big deal because they'll be playing against a co-ed school, meaning it's a rare chance to meet girls. Kyogo jokes that the boys in the stands are more fired up than the athletes themselves and tries to get Shuichi to play along. Shuichi awkwardly agrees, but his gaze drifts toward Mizuki, and a familiar warmth rises to his cheeks. After class, Shuichi continues watching Mizuki as she chats with her friends. He forces himself to snap out of his flustered state, determined to finally approach her. Shuichi grabs Mizuki by the arm and nervously asks if she can come watch him play this coming Sunday. Mizuki excitedly agrees, which makes Shuichi cheer out loud. On the day of the soccer match, Shuichi's eye twitches as he stiffly greets everyone who came to cheer him on. He was secretly hoping that only Mizuki would show up, but she ended up bringing the whole group. As he heads to his position on the field, Shuichi decides to focus and play his best since he still wants to show Mizuki his good side. Meanwhile, Shinji and Kyogo are trying to flirt with girls in the crowd. In the end, Shuichi and his team win the match. As they walk back toward the dorms, Mizuki congratulates Shuichi on his performance. Shuichi happily chats with Mizuki, though he's slightly annoyed by Shinji and Kyogo sticking so close to them. His irritation disappears the moment Mizuki calls him cool. Hearing that makes him incredibly happy, and for a brief moment, he forgets about everything else. Suddenly, Makoto approaches the group to speak with Izumi. Mizuki is confused about who he is, so Kyogo explains that Makoto was Izumi's rival back in middle school. Makoto walks straight up to Izumi, mocks him, and then walks past them. This strikes a nerve with Mizuki, and she deliberately raises her voice so Makoto can hear her. She calls him a coward and fires back every insult he threw, only to realize too late that she sounded far too feminine. Makoto seems to catch on that Mizuki is a girl, but his attention is quickly pulled away when other girls start calling out to him. He decides to leave the group alone for now, but not before throwing one last jab at Izumi and calling Mizuki Missy. Mizuki bristles with anger, and the feeling doesn't fade even after returning to the dorms. She recalls the conversation she had with Kyogo during their walk back to the dorms. Apparently, Makoto was undefeated until Izumi entered the track and field scene. While Makoto clearly saw Izumi as a rival, it seemed that Izumi didn't care enough about him. Still, the thought of Makoto is enough to frustrate Mizuki. Izumi soon exits the bathroom and tells Mizuki that she can take her turn to shower. As Mizuki stands up, Izumi casually remarks that her face looks like a monkey whenever she gets worked up over Makoto. He sincerely thanks her for standing up for him earlier, which instantly makes Mizuki smile. One day, Taiki receives a large delivery of lemons from his mother. The boys quickly start wondering what to do with them, realizing there are far too many to finish. After school, Mizuki consults Shuichi about an idea she has for the excess lemons. While they're in the middle of discussing it, Makoto appears in front of their school and begins making his way inside the campus. Shuichi and Mizuki start walking toward the exit together, but Mizuki moves ahead, since Shuichi still has something to take care of. She doesn't notice Makoto's presence until he suddenly calls her a runt. Mizuki turns to face him, and Makoto bluntly asks where the track team is. After getting a better look at her, he admits he's surprised she's a guy. Mizuki refuses to answer his question, so instead of backing off, Makoto grabs her, lifts her up, and starts carrying her around, intent on finding the track team. Izumi is busy practicing when he spots Makoto approaching, carrying Mizuki along with him. Mizuki shouts an apology toward Izumi, while Makoto mocks her for being female-like. He even slaps her to emphasize his point. Makoto eventually puts her down when Izumi firmly tells him to, but the moment her feet hit the ground, Mizuki slaps Makoto. Makoto is about to retaliate, but Izumi quickly steps between them and warns him to back off. Seeing how protective Izumi is of Mizuki, Makoto smirks and gets the idea that something might be going on between them. He teases Izumi, claiming he'll borrow Mizuki from him someday. Izumi grabs Makoto by the shirt and once again tells him to back off. Makoto grabs Izumi as well, continuing to taunt him. Mizuki is the one who gets fired up, but before she can say anything, Izumi covers her mouth. As Makoto starts to walk away, Mizuki can't stand hearing him badmouth Izumi. She pries Izumi's hand off her mouth and shouts more insults at Makoto, even calling him a stumpy-legged fox, causing Makoto to nearly trip as he walks off. Makoto continues walking away, clearly trying to hide his anger. Once he's finally out of sight, Mizuki looks up and notices Izumi shaking. Mizuki immediately panics, thinking that Izumi is angry with her. However, it turns out he's actually laughing at her earlier taunt. After calming himself down, he convinces Mizuki that it's time to head to the dorms. They return just in time for dinner, and Mizuki beams when she sees that they're serving fox-wheat noodles. Izumi can't help but chuckle as he remembers the insult Mizuki said. Their friends give him a mix of strange looks, since it's rare to see Izumi laughing so openly. Later, back in their room, Mizuki reflects on how strong Izumi is for not letting Makoto's words get to him. She knocks on the bathroom door to let Izumi know that she's going to visit Yujiro. Inside the bathroom, however, Izumi is still troubled by Makoto's insults. With Yujiro, Mizuki recounts everything that happened earlier. She also tells him why she decided to come to Japan. She explains that she was completely in awe when she first saw Izumi on TV, and around that same time she was having a major fight with Julia. Watching Izumi gave her the courage to do her best every day, and eventually she and Julia became close friends again. It was also Julia who encouraged her to fly all the way to Japan and chase after Izumi. Unbeknownst to Mizuki, Izumi is standing just around the corner and hears everything she says. He finally steps out, lightly scolding Mizuki for not wearing enough layers. He then invites her to come watch his practice. The following day, Mizuki is overflowing with excitement at the thought of watching Izumi up close. However, when Izumi jumps, he fails to clear the bar cleanly. Mizuki watches in shock as he tries again and again, only to fail each time. Unable to watch him struggle, Mizuki grabs his arm and begs him to stop, saying she understands now that he's not back in shape yet. Izumi only scolds himself for not being able to clear his mind properly. He then gently ruffles Mizuki's hair and tells her not to feel sorry for him, because she's the very reason he wants to keep trying. Despite his words, Mizuki can't shake her guilt and decides to visit Hokuto for advice. After listening, Hokuto suggests that the problem might be mental. He reasons that Izumi's mind could be trying to protect his body from getting injured. Seeing that Mizuki is clearly troubled, Hokuto suddenly changes into an outrageous outfit and starts dancing the hula in an attempt to cheer her up. Once he sees that she's better, he quickly changes back and tells her to stop overthinking everything. He explains that this is something Izumi has to overcome on his own, and that Mizuki's role is simply to be there to receive him when he's ready. For now, she should focus only on the things she can do for him. As Mizuki leaves, she wonders if cheering Izumi up might be one of those things. Back at the clinic, Hokuto receives a message from his sister, complaining that he still hasn't received a thank you for the present she sent over. Hokuto calls Minami and asks him to drop it off, but Minami replies that Hokuto can just pick it up at the dorm's front desk. Mizuki returns to the dorm and accidentally bumps into Shuichi near the entrance. As she helps him pick them up, Shuichi explains that they're for the hot pot party, meant to use up all the lemons. But Shuichi hurriedly tells her to keep her voice down since he doesn't want the entire dorm to find out. Kyogo arrives soon after, carrying several plastic bags filled with drinks. Taiki and Shinji peek out from around the corner and inform them that the dining room is ready. The group gathers all the bags and heads over together, with Taiki accidentally grabbing a bottle that had been left at the front desk for Hokuto to pick up. Once they're settled, the boys immediately start tossing ingredients into the pot. Izumi watches the process with visible concern, wondering if this is more of a dare than a meal. After a while, the hot pot actually starts to look presentable, with lemon slices floating neatly on top. As they begin choosing drinks, Izumi lets Mizuki pick one for him. She unknowingly chooses the wine, mistaking it for some kind of grape juice. As the party continues, Izumi starts to feel strange and excuses himself. Around the same time, Hokuto arrives at the door and calls Minami because the wine isn't at the front desk. Izumi struggles to make his way back to his room, confused over his state. When the boys notice he's been gone for a while, Mizuki volunteers to go check on him. As she heads out, Minami spots her leaving the dining hall. Mizuki enters their room and finds Izumi sitting beside his bed. She approaches him to ask if he's okay, but he suddenly opens his eyes to look at her. Meanwhile, Minami wanders into the dining area and finds the boys in the middle of their hot pot party. They immediately invite him to join, but his attention is drawn to the uncorked wine bottle. The boys stare at him in confusion, completely unaware that it's alcohol. Back in the room, as Mizuki leans closer to Izumi, he suddenly moves toward her as well. Startled, she tries to back away, but Izumi continues advancing. Once she's cornered, Izumi traps her in a kiss. It takes a few seconds for Mizuki to realize that Izumi is kissing her. When it finally sinks in, she panics, pushes him away, and punches him. Now free, she bolts out of the room and runs down the hallway, passing Minami along the way. Minami calls out to her, only realizing it was Mizuki after she disappears from sight. Still overwhelmed by the sudden kiss, Mizuki somehow ends up in front of Yujiro's doghouse, where she finally breaks down and starts crying. The next morning, Izumi wakes up on the floor. As he reaches for his phone, he notices a message from Mizuki saying that she's already left. When Izumi arrives at school, Shuichi and the others immediately react to his face since he's sporting a black eye. Izumi admits that he honestly has no idea how it happened, explaining that he woke up with it already there. Feeling guilty, Mizuki suddenly runs out of the classroom and quickly returns with an ice pack. She quietly offers it to Izumi so he can cool the swelling. Once he accepts it, Mizuki slowly inches away and moves to the hallway. Out in the hallway, she silently apologizes, knowing full well that she's the one who gave him the black eye. At lunchtime, Shuichi stretches and happily announces that it's finally time to eat. Izumi uses the moment to approach Mizuki and ask if she was the one who put the blanket over him. Nervous, Mizuki confirms that she did, explaining that she found him asleep on the floor. Izumi thanks her sincerely, but instead of simply accepting it, Mizuki suddenly makes an excuse and says she needs to rush out to buy bread. After classes end, Mizuki can't stop worrying that Izumi might think she's strange. At the same time, she feels a bit disappointed, since it seems that Izumi doesn't remember anything. As the memory of the kiss resurfaces, Mizuki blushes and desperately tries to shake it away. Minami notices her from where he's resting on a nearby bench and asks if someone made her cry again. Embarrassed, Mizuki quickly denies it, but Minami teases her, pointing out that he saw her last night and that she had the exact same expression on her face. He scoots over to make room for her, and before she realizes it, Mizuki finds herself opening up about how overwhelmed she's been with everything that's happened recently. Minami suddenly fixes her with a droopy, suggestive look and offers to help her forget all her troubles, promising her a good time. Alarmed by his tone, Mizuki immediately reminds Minami that she's a guy. Minami admits that he was only joking. Once things settle down, Minami mentions that a bottle of wine was found during their hot pot party and that it had already been uncorked. Minami doesn't think anything serious happens, since only a small amount was consumed. However, this revelation makes Mizuki realize the real reason why Izumi suddenly kissed her. Sensing her mood, Minami offers Mizuki his melon pan to cheer her up. She happily accepts it and starts eating. From the clinic, Hokuto notices the exchange and can't help but worry that Mizuki might be in danger of being found out by Minami. Senri also witnesses the scene from afar. By the time Mizuki heads to the locker room to retrieve her shoes, she feels a lot calmer. She remembers that her father has a friend who tends to kiss people when he's drunk, which helps her rationalize what happened. When she opens her locker, she's startled as a pile of thumbtacks spills out. Shuichi rushes over in concern, and when they look inside, they see that Mizuki's shoes are filled with thumbtacks. Mizuki initially misreads the threatening note left behind, but Shuichi quickly corrects her. She then finds another note and tries to read it, only for Izumi to step in and properly explain what it says. Izumi tears up the note and calmly reassures Mizuki that the threats are probably just a prank. Mizuki quietly agrees, but Shuichi is unsettled and insists that they all walk home together. Not wanting to worry them, Mizuki urges the boys to head to practice instead, saying she can take care of herself. As they part ways, Shuichi tries to tell Izumi that he should be kinder to Mizuki. Before Izumi can respond, the tennis team suddenly approaches them, asking about Mizuki. Instead of answering, Izumi bluntly tells them to get lost and storms off toward practice. Shuichi realizes that Izumi might be far angrier than he lets on. Back at the dorm, Mizuki wonders if she somehow offended someone. But when nothing comes to mind, her thoughts drift back to Izumi. Almost on cue, Izumi returns to their room just as she voices her concern. Trying to hide her embarrassment, Mizuki awkwardly asks how his bruise is doing. Izumi casually replies that it doesn't really hurt. Relieved despite the awkwardness of looking at his face, Mizuki invites Izumi to dinner. As she does, she can't help thinking about how lucky she is that her first kiss was taken by Izumi. Reality sinks in since the kiss really was her first. Overwhelmed, she sinks to the ground. When Izumi checks on her, she hurriedly explains that she just felt lightheaded from hunger. The next day, a small crowd gathers to watch as Mizuki opens her shoe locker. To her surprise, only her shoes are inside. Thinking it's finally safe, she slowly reaches for them, but the moment she pulls them out, liquid suddenly drips onto the floor. Shuichi grows increasingly frustrated over the bullying, especially since the culprit refuses to face Mizuki directly. His anger nearly leads to a fight with Izumi, who he feels isn't taking the situation seriously enough. Mizuki steps in and insists that she's fine. Moving to the front, she cheerfully says she can just dry her shoes, adding that staying positive is what she does best. With a bright smile, she grabs both boys by the arms and pulls them forward, urging them to start the day. As they run ahead, they fail to notice Senri watching them from behind the corner. Later, during one of their breaks, Hokuto approaches Izumi and advises him to keep a close eye on Mizuki. Back at the dorm, Mizuki shows her friends a photo of her older brother, who looks foreign. She explains that they have different birth mothers and that her brother's birth mother passed away during childbirth. The conversation is suddenly interrupted when Senri makes a snide remark, mocking Mizuki for bragging about her brother like a child. Izumi arrives just in time to witness the scene, walking in as Shuichi is about to demand that Senri apologize. Before the situation can escalate, Minami pushes down on Shuichi's head to prevent him from advancing. He then calmly tells Senri that he didn't like what he just saw. With an annoyed huff, Senri turns away and leaves. Seeing that there's nothing left to mediate, Minami lets go of Shuichi and walks off as well. The boys begin to seriously consider the possibility that Senri is the one bullying Mizuki. Mizuki hesitates at the idea, but they point out that Senri has plenty of reason to resent her, especially since he lost his title as the dorm's idol when Mizuki first moved in. Even so, Mizuki refuses to fully accept the idea. She hopes that by ignoring whoever is targeting her, the bullying will eventually stop. That hope is crushed the very next day at school, when Mizuki finds a cruel message painted on her desk calling her a moron. Her grip tightens on her bag and Shuichi immediately starts to worry. Mizuki announces that she's had enough and is going to search for the culprit herself. She turns to the boys and firmly tells them not to interfere because she wants to handle the situation on her own. After school, Mizuki stays behind and hides near the lockers, determined to catch her bully in the act. Soon she notices someone approaching her shoe locker. Seizing the chance, she jumps out and grabs the culprit's wrist, only to realize it's Senri. Senri struggles to break free and accidentally drops his phone, revealing his lock screen. A photo of Minami, which Mizuki easily notices. Senri quickly snatches his phone back, an embarrassed blush spraying across his face as he turns to leave. But he suddenly turns back and bluntly admits how much he hates Mizuki. He confesses that he's jealous of the attention Minami has been giving her just because she's a transfer student. Even before Mizuki arrived, it was already hard for him to get Minami's attention, so he couldn't help but resent her for gaining Minami's favor so easily. Senri tells Mizuki she can report him if she wants, but instead, Mizuki offers to be his friend. The unexpected offer shocks him, so Mizuki explains that she thinks they could be great friends, especially since she also likes someone. Though Senri scoffs and calls her weird, the tension fades and they start talking more comfortably as they leave the locker area. Mizuki eventually exits the school building and finds Izumi waiting for her. They decide to walk back to the dorms together, with Hokuto watching them from the infirmary window. During the walk, Mizuki reflects on how much she enjoys walking home with Izumi. Suddenly, Makoto appears right in front of them and Mizuki immediately tells him to leave them alone. She tries to push him away, but Makoto easily traps her by locking her head against his upper body. While holding her in place, he taunts Izumi and challenges him to join the spring preliminaries. He knows Izumi has been keeping up with the news and is fully aware of his recent achievements. Makoto declares that the spring preliminaries would be the perfect stage to settle their rivalry. Izumi accepts the challenge and demands that Makoto release Mizuki. Makoto releases her, causing Mizuki to stumble back into Izumi's arms and then walks away satisfied. Mizuki eventually regains her footing and gives Izumi a questioning look. Izumi explains that he read in an online article that Makoto had recently broken another record. During winter break, Izumi continues practicing while Mizuki watches from the sidelines, happy to see that he's slowly regaining his form and successfully clearing jumps again. As they walk back to the dorms together, Mizuki casually mentions that she doesn't plan on going home yet, saying it feels like she only just arrived. They're suddenly stopped by two girls from Tokyo High. One of them approaches Mizuki and offers her Valentine's chocolates. Mizuki hesitates, unsure of what to do, until the girl quickly clarifies that she's not asking her out. She just wanted to tell Mizuki that she thinks she's cool for standing up to Makoto. After a gentle nudge from Izumi, Mizuki accepts the chocolates. The second girl then steps forward and offers a neatly wrapped box of chocolates to Izumi. She shyly admits that she's been a longtime fan and asks if he would consider being her boyfriend. Watching the exchange makes Mizuki uncomfortable. To her relief, Izumi politely turns the girl down and refuses the chocolates. Later that evening, Mizuki decides to call Hokuto and talk through her confusion. Hokuto lightly teases her, calling her cute for worrying over something so small, and even suggests that she consider telling Izumi the truth about her gender. When Mizuki immediately refuses, Hokuto reminds her of why she came to this school in the first place. If she wants to stay by Izumi's side, she has to continue living as a guy for as long as she can. Being a girl doesn't diminish her feelings for him, and she has nothing to be ashamed of. Feeling refreshed by the conversation, Mizuki thanks Hokuto for helping her. She then expresses surprise at how knowledgeable he is about jealousy, prompting Hokuto to admit that he once felt the same way about someone he loved back in school. He describes the man as cruel, with a terrible personality, someone who even took advantage of Hokuto's feelings because he knew Hokuto liked him. Mizuki frowns, unable to understand why Hokuto would love someone so unkind. Hokuto doesn't answer her question. After hanging up, he quietly tells himself that maybe he loved that person because he himself was twisted. Not long after, Mizuki receives a message from her brother. In the text, he says that he'll be visiting Japan for a week and hopes they can see each other while he is there. One day, Hokuto is in the middle of flirting with his lover when Mizuki suddenly bursts into the clinic. She freezes in surprise at seeing a non-student in such an intimate situation with Hokuto and quickly apologizes for interrupting them. Both men tell her it's fine and invite her inside. Mizuki explains that she needs Hokuto's help with something. After settling down, she nervously asks if he could help her get some female clothes. Despite her pleading, Hokuto seems unwilling to help at first, distracted as he continues typing on his phone. Thinking he truly won't assist her, Mizuki decides to give up and head home, but Hokuto stops her before she can leave. On the day she is supposed to meet her older brother, Mizuki makes sure Izumi is still asleep before quietly sneaking out of their room. In truth, Izumi has only pulled the curtains shut. Mizuki heads to the common bathroom to change into a dress. The clothes were lent to her by Ryo, Hokuto's younger sister. Mizuki remembers how kind and gentle Ryo was when they met at the clinic and smiles at the thought. Hurrying out of the park to meet her brother, Mizuki has no idea that Izumi is watching her from a nearby bench. She arrives at a hotel where she finally reunites with her brother, Shizuki. Overjoyed, she runs straight toward him, and he immediately lifts her off the ground and kisses her cheek in greeting. Shizuki admits how shocked he was to learn that Mizuki had decided to move to Japan for high school. Feeling embarrassed, Mizuki points out that people are staring because he is still carrying her. Meanwhile, Izumi keeps his distance but follows them discreetly, remaining out of sight. When Shizuki finally puts Mizuki down, he tears up at the sight of her short hair, clearly emotional over how much she's changed. They sit down together at a restaurant where Mizuki learns that Shizuki will be staying in Japan for 2 weeks. She immediately realizes that she must make sure he never finds out that she is attending an all-boys school. Shizuki suddenly becomes overwhelmed, struck by how much Mizuki has grown while he was away on his internship. His expression turns serious as he asks whether Mizuki has already met Izumi. Nervous but honest, Mizuki admits that she has. She abruptly leaves, realizing that she might slip up if she keeps talking about Izumi. Her brother watches her go, quietly thinking about the school she has chosen to attend. The next day, Mizuki and Senri are chatting casually in the classroom like old friends, which immediately makes Shuichi and the others suspicious of their sudden closeness. Senri complains about how much courage he has to build up just to speak to Minami, only to be met with the same curt tone Minami uses with everyone else. Mizuki agrees, saying she understands how crushing it can be when your crush greets you so coldly first thing in the morning. Senri continues venting, insisting that he doesn't even like guys in general and that he only feels this way about Minami. He assumes Mizuki understands what he's going through with her own crush, though in truth, Mizuki doesn't. Shuichi decides he wants to join their conversation, but Senri quickly shuts him down, saying this discussion is only for cute boys. Shuichi fumes at the insult, giving Mizuki the perfect chance to slip away unnoticed. When she steps into the hallway, she spots Izumi. He tells her that he's just come from a meeting with the track team captain about the spring preliminaries. They leave school together but split up so Izumi can head to practice. Suddenly, she hears Shizuki call her name. She turns to see him standing there, and he has just discovered that her school is an all-boys academy. Furious, he grabs her arm and tries to drag her home. Refusing to leave, Mizuki bites his arm. With neither sibling willing to back down, Izumi steps in and calmly suggests that Shizuki should let Mizuki go. Shizuki immediately realizes that Izumi is the boy Mizuki's been so fixated on. Dramatically pointing at Izumi, Shizuki accuses him of alluring Mizuki while Mizuki frantically protests. Shizuki challenges Izumi to show his jump, but Mizuki immediately objects, accidentally revealing that Izumi is still recovering from an injury. This piques Shizuki's interest and he agrees to listen to their full story. After hearing everything, he sets a condition that before he returns to the United States, Izumi must be able to clear the bar cleanly. If he succeeds, Shizuki will allow Mizuki to stay in Japan. When Shizuki leaves, Izumi suddenly asks Mizuki if she can take over Yujiro's walks. He explains that starting today, he wants to double his training efforts. True to her word, Mizuki takes over walking Yujiro. Shuichi notices her and invites her to hang out after she finishes walking Yujiro. They end up at an okonomiyaki restaurant, and it's Mizuki's first time trying it. She learns that Shuichi comes here often by himself, especially when he feels homesick, because the flavors remind him of home. Mizuki smiles at his story and thanks him for taking her out. When she returns to the dorm, she moves quietly, assuming Izumi has already fallen asleep. To her surprise, he speaks up, saying he can smell food. Mizuki offers him the takeout she brought, which he accepts and starts eating. She takes this moment to wish him good luck with his high jump. Izumi can tell that she's worried about her brother's condition and how it's affecting him, so he reassures her that Shizuki's deal is only a secondary concern. His real motivation for training so hard is Makoto's challenge. Then, to her surprise, Izumi stands up and says he's still hungry even though he just ate. One day, Shizuki decides to visit Osaka High. From the clinic window, Hokuto notices him wandering around the school grounds. Shizuki has come to spy on Izumi, even going so far as to prepare dark clothing and sunglasses to conceal his identity. Shizuki looks around uncertainly, unsure where to go. At that moment, Hokuto slides his window open and calls out to him, offering his help. Flustered, Shizuki explains that he has a relative studying there. Hokuto studies him for a moment before quickly realizing that Shizuki is Mizuki's older brother. He invites Shizuki inside the clinic so he can meddle a little. He soon finds himself seated in the clinic with a cup of tea. Hokuto casually asks what Shizuki thinks of Osaka High. Shizuki admits that while there isn't anything particularly bad about the school, there also isn't anything especially good about it either. To his surprise, Hokuto seems agreeable. He comments that many of the students are rather free-spirited. Then, without directly naming her, he brings up Mizuki, remarking on how bold she is to attend this school just to chase after her idol. Hokuto says that Mizuki can easily be mistaken for a girl. At this, Shizuki abruptly spits out his tea and quickly excuses himself, not wanting to risk exposing Mizuki. At the track and field area, Mizuki is helping Izumi practice his high jump by recording his attempts on her tablet. Izumi leans in closer to check the footage, unconcerned by their proximity, but Mizuki suddenly becomes aware of it. She unexpectedly remembers their first kiss together and gets lost in thought. Sensing that something is off, Izumi moves even closer to check on her, which startles Mizuki so badly that she accidentally smacks him with her tablet. She steps backward only to collide with Makoto behind her. He looks furious at seeing her, but his anger quickly shifts toward Izumi, and he grabs him by the collar. Shizuki finally arrives at the track area, slightly out of breath. Makoto suddenly shoves Izumi to the ground. Makoto hurls insults, accusing Izumi of giving up on the sport too easily, even after making a recovery. Izumi remains composed, but there is unmistakable fire in his voice as he answers. He tells Makoto that he alone gets to decide how he continues this sport, and that resolve is something he found because of Mizuki. He adds that passing the spring preliminaries is only the first step in his career. A mocking smirk forms on Makoto's face as he says he'll be waiting to see if Izumi can actually back up his words before walking away. Izumi then suggests that they should head home. Mizuki brightens and offers him her hand. Izumi takes it, letting her pull him to his feet. Izumi asks what Mizuki plans to do if he fails to clear the jump. At first, Mizuki answers lightly that she would simply be dragged back to the States. But when Izumi presses her for her true answer, she admits that she wants to stay in Japan. Izumi tells her that she should stay if that is what she wants. Before she can respond, Shizuki declares sharply that Mizuki's future is not Izumi's decision to make. Shizuki insists that if Izumi truly wants Mizuki to remain in Japan, then he must clear the jump. Mizuki immediately defends Izumi, saying that he is already doing his best. In response, Shizuki coldly calls Izumi pathetic. Izumi doesn't argue back. Instead, When one of his teammates calls him to speak with the coach, he simply walks away. Shizuki watches him leave with clear disdain, muttering that Izumi isn't worthy of Mizuki's devotion. Furious, she shouts that she hates Shizuki, then turns and runs off, leaving Shizuki stunned behind her. He sinks to his knees, defeated, clearly shaken that Mizuki would react so strongly against him. Later, Mizuki waits outside the school gates with Yujiro. When Izumi comes out, Mizuki tries to apologize for Shizuki's behavior, but Izumi brushes it off, saying they can pretend the whole thing never happened if she gives him one of her shrimps for dinner. Mizuki's heart swells with affection as she watches his back. The day of the competition finally arrives. Izumi and Mizuki's friends are all present to support Izumi. Mizuki spots her brother and walks over to him. She thanks him for coming. After briefly greeting her friends, Shizuki smiles at Mizuki and waves her off. Before the event begins, Mizuki approaches Izumi to wish him good luck. She hands him a charm for luck, though Izumi points out that it is actually a charm for love. Mizuki freezes in embarrassment, insisting that she had bought what Senri recommended. Despite her mortification, Izumi smiles and decides to accept it. In the audience, Shizuki sits beside Shuichi and asks what kind of person Izumi really is. Instead of explaining, Shuichi tells him to simply watch and judge for himself. Soon the announcer calls Izumi's name. A murmur ripples through the crowd in surprise, since many hadn't expected him to compete. Even Makoto looks mildly amused. Izumi steps onto the track. The signal sounds and he sprints forward. Mizuki squeezes her hands together, silently praying. To everyone's shock, Izumi clears the bar cleanly. Shizuki slowly rises from his seat without a word and leaves the arena. Meanwhile, Mizuki meets Izumi on the field in tears to congratulate him. Overwhelmed with emotion, she even falls to the ground. Izumi, equally relieved, pulls her into a spontaneous hug. For a brief moment, they forget they are in public until someone calls out to them. When Izumi suggests they return to the benches, Mizuki can't stop grinning, since his form was beautiful. Makoto scoffs at their joy, then challenges Izumi to improve quickly so they can truly compete against each other. Instead of his usual indifference, Izumi actually accepts it positively. Later, as the group prepares to head back, Mizuki receives a message from Shizuki. He tells her to at least visit home during the holidays and wishes her good luck. As Shizuki is on his flight back to the States, he finds himself unable to hold back his tears. At the start of the new term, Mizuki reflects on the preliminaries. Izumi did make the final cut, but he is officially back in the high jump. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss a new episode every week.